All right, let's talk a little bit more about disgust. If I've even talked that much about it, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to disgust. I take myself as somebody who is particularly high in disgust, but there are other components and facets to my personality that don't necessarily align with that. Um, hopefully that I have a hoodie on, and it's a late December day. It's really cold here in Florida, actually, um, like under 60. So I have a hoodie and sweatpants on. But anyway, doing my normal walk, but this time in the cold. Although it's not that cold. I'm used to Michigan cold, so this is nothing. But your body's used to something, it's colder than that, so it's cold. Anyway, back to disgust. So again, I consider myself to be someone high in disgust. Most INTJs are, really. Um, but like I said, there are other pieces to the puzzle. Like, for example, I'm high in openness, particularly so on the big five. It's like my most outstanding trait out of there. And I've met people who are high in disagreeableness, or you would say low in agreeableness. Um, and I've met people who are high in all the other traits, but specifically me, I'm particularly high in openness, like almost always testing 95%, 97%, or 100% in openness. But it's beyond just testing, it's also in real life practice. Um, but one of my friends always likes to joke about how I'm high in openness until it comes to a painful experience. Like, for example, in this group chat, 4 guys, and this hot chip challenge was going around with this blue chip. And everyone's eating this chip. And for me, I mean, there's videos of people going up to people on the street paying them $40 to eat this chip, or I mean, maybe even $100. But I don't think I'd eat that chip for 1,000. And I'm pretty low on money. I wouldn't eat it for, I don't know. I don't think I'd eat it for 10 grand. I really don't think I'd eat the chip for 10 grand. Like, really, if the chip was actually in front of me and the 10 grand was too, I don't think I'd eat the chip. I don't. 100 grand, I might start to consider it. Like, it would be very hard if the money was right in front of me. But like, these kinds of experiences are something that I specifically avoid because my dormant extroverted sensing in the 4th slot, I've gone on and on this channel, and anyone else who's talked to me knows. They know that, physically I'm very sensitive. I get overstimulated. I don't like anything bright or anything loud. Concerts are like a hell for me. Like, I remember this one time I went to this concert with my first girlfriend. And I don't know, I guess I just don't know what I was expecting. Back then I was just more of a drone. I won't say I was a drone, but I was blue pilled, so I didn't know what I was expecting. I was a simp, and she just wanted to go to this concert. It was a band she liked. And I was like, okay, well, I've never been to one, so this is cool now. I can do stuff with a girlfriend, I guess. Because I'd spent my whole teens in my room. So I go to this concert, and there's like, this is how ridiculous it is. They have 2 bands before the main band, and then they have the main band. So we get there early as fuck. And I am so uncomfortable by the end of the second band that when the main band started, like, it was a experience so painful that I don't really have words to describe it. Mind you, there was 20 tracks to be played with the main band, and my ex was like, this was so cocked. She was like trying to get to the front row, like crazy, just zero sensitivity in her mind at all. Which well, sensitive in some ways and completely numb in others. But it's just completely ridiculous. Like, she's trying to get to the front row. I had to leave. Like, I had to leave this concert. You know, like 2 songs in, 3 songs into the main band. So I made it through, like, you know, whatever the early, like the prequel, and I made it 2 songs in, and I left, and my ears were throbbing, like ringing, like bad. And I just remember it was like my whole body hurt. Literally, it was like painful. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, do people go there and they're like, it feels good, like the vibration feels good? I'm just not sure. Or like the lights don't bother them. Like any type of bright light or flashing lights or any variation of these lights just being obnoxious, I can't even look at them. I have to close my eyes. That's gotten worse with age, actually. And I'll just never forget the experience. I go into the parking lot, and it's so quiet. It's so serene in that parking lot. But my ears and body just hurt so bad from this experience. I just laid in the back of the car in the fetal position. So this is the level of physical sensitivity I have. So of course I'm not open to new experiences when it comes to physical experiences unless I know they'll be good. So when it comes to sex, I'm open to any type of way that can make a nut feel better. But when it comes to painful ones like concerts or eating hot chips, I'm not open to that at all. Like, I'm not open to painful experiences at all. But beyond this, I do think that maybe is like are you really high in openness if this is the way you are? But I don't know if that's really emphasizing what the trait of high openness is about. I think it's about the creativity in the ways in which you are open to new experiences. So, you know, I don't necessarily know if it's emphasizing the fact that because I only am open to pleasurable experiences, but I might be open to 10,000 different pleasurable things, whereas an NPC might only be open to like 100 or 10. You know what I'm saying? So I might be orders of magnitude higher on open to, you know, pleasurable experiences, but specifically having the trait in which, you know, you have creativity in just seeking these things out. You know, so yeah, and this is also why I have this, I do think it interplays with this attachment pattern to girls that have certain types of disorders, because they tend to be more kinky in bed in general. And I mean, if you have one of these like boring blonde dog moms, like how are you going to enjoy anything with that? But that's just an interesting side note on openness. I don't think it applies to being open to experience pain. I think it applies specifically to how creative are you in the ways in which you could experience new and fresh and novel, pleasurable experiences. I think that's really what the trait highlights. So, but this trait doesn't really interplay well with high disgust. High disgust, it doesn't make any sense. Like, high disgust, you would find the openness to new experiences disgusting for the most part. A huge amount of the, you know, things that your high openness would be interested in experiencing would also sort of be incompatible with any particular trait of, you know, high in disgust. They generally don't go together well. So how could it be that I have both of these? That's an interesting question I haven't really gotten to the bottom of. The other thing I'd like to talk about is how, you know, your political views affect your disgust. So, like I said, growing up, I was a leftist. I have leftist origins. Transhumanism is innately leftist. It's not a humanist thing at all. Well, no shit, but it's not a right-wing thing at all to be a transhumanist, is what I'm trying to say. Not that it's not a humanist, it's not a right-wing thing. They're just not compatible. So, a lot of my origins, or you could even say a lot of the ways I am still today, really. I really am still this way today. You know, it's not a very right-wing thing, and there's a huge correlation with being leftist and having low disgust and being right-wing and having high disgust. But the thing is, I don't know, maybe you combine a couple of my features, and it seems to me that I have higher disgust than a huge amount of people. But then it's also not true, because there's also people I know that, I don't know, it's weird. There's so many components to the discussion. It's hard to say what's left over from your past life and what isn't, because I'm one of these people who is always changing in psychological ways that are drastic. So remnants are left behind, and some things get completely overwritten. So it can be hard to really psychoanalyze the situation perfectly. But yeah, I'm on Telegram with a lot of right-wingers, and you know, I've been exposed to these people for quite a while now, and honestly, I'm thinking I have higher disgust than most of them. I think just because intelligence is such a prerequisite to it, sensitivity specifically, and again, sensitivity and intelligence they interplay with each other. They're the same thing. You cannot be intelligent if you're not sensitive. It's just impossible. So, I don't mean sensitive physically. Like, obviously you don't have to be sensitive physically like me, but just sensitivity in general. Any form of sensitivity you could argue, would make somebody smarter. For sure. Sensitivity is really, what does that really mean? If you dig deeper, it's just the ability to absorb more information. So your brain is literally absorbing more information. To be squishy, right? Because just because you're sensitive doesn't mean the world is going to stop for you. The world is still going to dish you the same dose, but you can't take as much. You OD easier. You get high easier, and you get low easier. That's what sensitivity really is. So in that regard, there's almost no way sensitivity would not correlate with higher intelligence. And this is, I think, the thing a lot of these right-wingers are lacking. Like, even though you might be right-wing and that might raise your disgust level, the lack of sensitivity is very much a curse. And it causes a lot of them to not be as high in disgust as the charts might say. Yeah, clearly more than a leftist, but you know, there's still something lacking there. It's from what I'm saying. Now, there's also another component to the discussion of disgust that I'm trying to think of, because it's not coming to me. I'm losing my train of thought out of nowhere. Oh yeah. So when I combine the right-wing stuff with a lot of the other stuff that I've already had in my personality for a long time, something recently has kind of hit me. Like, I've been watching a lot of these live leaks, and it used to be, I really didn't like watching them, and I don't exactly know why I didn't like watching them growing up. But I mean, shock content in general is, I don't think anybody really enjoys it. It's just, you would get numb to it if you've seen enough of it. If you go on enough 4chan, or you go on enough of these sites like Rotten, what is that site? Rotten.com, I think it is. Although I don't even know if that's the most popular shock content site. But I mean, I remember I had friends, oh, I almost tripped. I had friends when I was like very young, like we were in 6th grade. I hung out with some really bad kids, and I would go over their house, and we would go on this site called That's Fucked with a PH, and just shit you did behind your parents' back. And I guess this shock content was really popular in the early, not in the 2010s, but in the 2000s, literally. This had to be like 2009, 2008. So completely, like, I don't even think I was busting nuts yet, and we were watching this shit. That's fucked. It was wild shit. Complete, just crazy shock content. Even an adult would be just, be disgusted at it. But these days I'm able to watch this shock content. A lot of the shit on Live Leak isn't even really that shocking. It's not really shock content. It's just people like, it's a lot of people getting injured and then some people dying. Like, but the way it's a lot of like people getting hit by cars, trains, people jumping off buildings, falling off things. Most of them aren't even deaths; they're just injuries. So you kind of like. And by the way, I don't even know if Live Leak is still up. It's just the Telegram Live Leak. But I was watching enough of these to the point to where I was kind of just like able to watch them. You know what I'm saying? Able to watch them. And so I wasn't so completely disgusted by the gore because a lot of these live leaks don't even have that much gore. So you're just able to really see it for what it is, you know, somebody after 60 years every day eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, going from, you know, infant to toddler to adolescent to teenager to adult to middle-aged to being old, having ups, downs, grinding, stressing, all this stuff, and then they just get squashed like a bug. Just squashed like a bug, like literally like a bug by a train. And I think this is what really sort of, something about it, how do I describe it? It's the case that when you truly become case selected, there's always these fucking animals around. You just kind of, you find it, it's not even that too. There's more to it than just the live leaks. So for example, there was this video I watched on Twitter. This was on Twitter. Just this guy who, and again, I can watch all this shit these days. Like it doesn't really gross me out per se. But there's this video and this guy in Philadelphia, downtown Philadelphia, just goes up and just executes a cop. Just on the street, just executes a cop. Black guy walks up to a white cop, just straight up executes him right in the street, walks away. Nothing else. Now, the gross component to this is more sickening than even gore because it's just, I'm starting to see, you know, also the other thing is if you spend enough time on Telegram, the theme on Telegram is who can be the most extreme and just say the most extreme shit. It's like the whole theme is like, we're all black pilled. Everyone please just accelerate the system and do, you know, like we're all offering the solutions that accelerate the system to collapse the fastest so that we can get to a system that's better than this system. I think that's the general theme. So accelerationism is an integral component to Telegram culture. And extremism interplays with accelerationism because anything that accelerates the system along is extreme. Of course, anything moderate does not accelerate the system. So, you know, these people who are always, you know, a lot of the stuff that gets proposed is like who to kill, who needs to die, how many people need to die from the vax till things change, or no politicians were even killed on January 6th. There's a lot of talk about killing, but if you actually go down and this is kind of the thing I was really trying to get to, which is, if you go down the if you go down the Christ-cuck path, the traditional Christ-cuck path, and you try to see things in a true case-selected lens, or really, if you just start thinking about how much effort it would be to raise a kid, just think about this, because this has been the theme I talked about in a lot of my more recent videos. If you really try to open your mind up to the idea of how much investment or work it would take, I wonder what kind of creatures are living in that water. How much effort and work it would take to you ever just know something's around, but you just don't, I don't want to be, I just don't know what the fuck is over there. So anyway, you don't know what kind of creatures are, God, now I'm fucking focused on my environment. That's extroverted sensing right there. But you don't know, oh yeah, back to this. So the kids thing, it's the case that, you know, if you really open your mind up to how much effort it takes to invest into a kid, you'll quickly start to think about how disgusting murder really is. And you won't throw it out so loosely. It's beyond actually even doing it, because if you actually do it, you would find murder to be even more grotesque. Any variation of violence on people to be a disgusting act, for the simple fact that you see now, you really can look at a fully grown woman or man and think about how much went into investing into that thing for it to get to that point. It's a lot. We talk a lot about modern society on this channel in general, just in general. It's a common theme. And when you think about modern society, we often criticize them for not being case selected enough. In other words, there's a superb lack of investment into the offspring. The issue with this is it's not really the case that people are selected now. It's just that they're more are selected than before. Humans are still innately a case selected species. So the reality is, even if you reduce that and invest less into your offspring, you're still investing way more than creatures even on our planet. Many creatures on our planet are just fish that just have a sack, 300 come out, and they invest nothing in their offspring, right? So, yeah, it's not so much that humans are selected, it's just that they're acting in more are selected ways than they did in the 1800s and before, right? So when you really think about it though, even in modern society, how much it really takes to invest into a person and create them as an adult. And then you think about what it means for that thing to die, or what it means for someone to kill that thing. It's just, I don't know. It's not so funny to me now when people talk about genocide or the fragility of life, and a lot of the accelerationist ideas are, well, some people need to die. Some people need to die. But it's not the same thing to say, oh, a human needs to die just because it's an organism, it's an animal, as even other mammals, let alone, compared to a lot of the other species on the planet. Yeah, I get it. We're all going to die in the end anyway, Yeah, that's a thing. But it's not without tremendous amounts of investment. The idea that you're just going to loosely suggest the death of many individuals just because it happens all the time naturally, it doesn't really fit very well with the world model of anybody who is considering the Christ cook sort of case selected path. I just want to be clear though, I'm not one of these people. I'm just really trying to stretch my brain to think like them. Look at it more like a thought experience, a thought experiment. I'm not going around saying, and here's the other thing too, the more I try to stretch my brain to believe in God, the more I just realize how completely impossible it will ever be for me to believe in God. It's not even something I could trick myself into, because the more that you think about God, the more you just cannot unsee how real evolution is. It's just so in your face. And I guess there could be both, but it's just weird how good of a theory evolution is. Obviously it's a theory, but by trying to stretch my brain to consider other possibilities and ways of thinking and world models, the more I find it to just be completely impossible, and it kind of reaffirms the way I was thinking before, which is, well, you guys already know. So anyway, the main thing is that this is one thing I did get though from trying to think more in this Christ cook traditional way, is and I'm balancing on these. I'm balancing, so if it sounds weird, it's because you guys know in parking lots where they have those little things at the edge of the parking, when you go into a parking spot, they have those bricks almost, and there's this small little, I don't know how to describe it, but I'm balancing on those things in parking lots that stop your tires from driving too far up. So, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, you just find murder grotesque. You find death in general grotesque, and basically you just find anything that loosely talks about life as if it isn't some grand investment disgusting. Because the amount of effort it requires to get a kid up to a certain age is so high. So, even not even just that, but like I'm coming out of a 3-year-long relationship, the amount of investment that required was so much higher than it ever amounted to. Like it just got liquidated in a second, but the amount of investment it took to build up was so high. And I find that disgusting. And I was going to talk about that here in this recording too. Not only do I find murder disgusting, which is something maybe before I wouldn't have found so disgusting, because when you're a nihilist, when you're an atheist, when you're a transhumanist, you don't find murder disgusting. Transhumanism is really about killing the human and making it into something new. Atheism is really about saying nothing matters, so who cares if you kill? Nihilism is sort of in that same, or atheism is saying there's no God, so it's not immoral to kill. And nihilism is really saying, in the end, nothing matters, so killing there's no difference to kill or to not kill. These are all morals that I had for my whole life, really, let's be honest. And I still have them. Like I said, I haven't converted. It's just the case that I'm challenging these beliefs more now, right? And I quickly find the case to be that it's the same thing with cheating or any kind of degenerate stuff regarding relationships. Like cheating is just as disgusting, or really any variation of leaving the partner at all. Like I get now why marriage is the way that it is. It makes sense. It's non-disgusting, right? Which is why traditionalists are so attracted to it. And that's why leftists hate it. Or at the very least, they might still get married, but they don't really have any real faith in Christianity or anything. They just get married because everyone else is doing it. And they're drones who follow the crowd. But the right-wingers get married because they actually believe in the faith, and because it's the non-disgusting thing to do, right? In the case of what happened to me, which was just quickly leaving on a whim, or just, again, not instant, but near instant liquidation of something that took years to build, it's just innately disgusting. It's kind of right in there with murder. It's killing an investment that took so long to make in just the blink of an eye. And I think that's what live leaks really kind of taught me when I was watching them, is just how quickly the thing can end and how much investment it took to build it. That parallel is just not equal. It's just not equal at all. It's not a parallel at all. It's just fucked up. So, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of things, even more than maybe my base kit was to have high disgust. I think if you try to adopt different philosophies and challenge different world models, challenge different ideas, you might find way more things to be disgusting than you originally had before. But there are some people who are so, like I said, unsensitive that it would not matter what you told them. They just don't have the capacity for disgust. So again, I think it is a genetic trait, but there are certain things that you can do that sort of make you question, like high in openness. Like I said, it doesn't really correlate well with high disgust. So, but yeah, that's just an interesting little audio on it. I think the general theme is just back to that same thing, which is that destroying people's investments, it's just wrong. I find it gross, So, but then again, it's nature. Nature is like that anyway. Can you blame someone for acting in a natural way? Right? It's competition, it's survival of the fittest. And that's the whole like evolution ideology, right? So can never open this door ever. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty much all.